It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission at the end of the day is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute the big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. In this episode, we have the one and only Michelle. She's in the building, and she'll be talking about something very interesting, putting down the weight. Okay, how high-achieving women can really lead differently. What does putting down the weight even mean? First, let me say hello to the one and only Michelle. Michelle, hello. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, Shay. Hello to you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today with you and your amazing audience.
Thank you so much. And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in. You have a lot of choices, and you choose to be with us today. So thank you so very much. Now, Michelle, let me just jump into it and ask the question that's got to be on everyone's mind, especially mine. Here it is. When you say putting down the weight, what does that mean? Especially since we're talking about high achieving women who are already doing some amazing things. So what does putting down the weight even mean these days?
Yes, and I love the way that you summed it up about these high achieving women because, yes, they are doing amazing things, but while we're doing amazing things, we're also carrying a whole bunch of things as well. There's the career, there's home, there could be kids, and there also comes a point where when you start carrying a lot, you don't realize it, but sometimes you stop asking for help, you start overperforming, and then there's a cost to those things where it then becomes a weight that you're carrying. You're carrying so much that there are times where you're going to sleep and you're tired, you're exhausted, but you can't fall asleep because you're so caught up in those things that you're carrying, thinking about what you had to do tomorrow or what you didn't do that day. So just the weight of everything that the woman is carrying. And sometimes when that happens, you get disconnected with yourself. You lose sight of who you are. And so that's what I do. I help women that when they're in that crossroads where they're disconnected and feeling stuck, to be able to reconnect with themselves, tap back into their power and their greatness so that they can start living a life and leading a life with confidence and purpose again.
When you talk about overthinking, this is spot on. We'll get into her background. I know some of you are wondering who is this person on the other line. We'll get to her in a moment. Some of you have already looked at her background, especially when you said high achieving women. But she talks about in the title overthinking. And I'm wondering if these are smart, capable women, obviously. Why do they struggle with overthinking before having to make these big decisions?
Well, one, just because when you start carrying the weight of so much, you start doubting yourself at times, you start second guessing yourself, and sometimes we also start shrinking. Shrinking how? Okay, you're on the job, you already had your list of 5 things that you plan to do before you walked in the office. You get in the office, somebody gets you before you even get to your desk. Then, when you get to your desk, your boss throws out something else. So then, everything that you planned for that day has already been changed because of those things that happened. So, that's where the overthinking comes in on what do I do first? What do I prioritize? And trying to be the people pleaser at times. That's what causes the overthinking. So, yes, we're high achieving and doing a lot, but sometimes all of those things cause us to get off track because we want to be great, but we can't please everyone. And one thing I tell women all the time is I can do anything, just not everything.
I like that. And you talk about leadership, and a number of women that are watching these days are leaders. And I like how you opened up where they're a leader in their family, a leader in their community, a leader at the office, but they're at least a leader of one before they're a leader of many. I guess my question is, how does overthinking quietly impact women as it relates to leadership when everything on the outside is looking just fine? How does that impact those folks from a leadership perspective? Those folks that are, some have careers, they're looking to move up in their careers. Maybe it's those. Some folks are entrepreneurs looking to move up in that. So I guess the question is overthinking. How does that hurt them from a leadership perspective? Yeah.
Yep. So from a leadership perspective, it can be a big deterrent because with the overthinking, like I said, sometimes you start doubting yourself, your skills and your abilities. So therefore, when let's say a new opportunity comes across your path that you know you are qualified for, you start second guessing and talking yourself out of why you should apply for that role. Or you've been given a stretch assignment, but you start saying to yourself, I can't take this on. So you start doubting yourself. So in leadership, sometimes it causes you to doubt who you are and lose your value. You also want to be seen as someone that can get along with everyone. So sometimes the overthinking tends to cause you to be the people pleaser. Or what happens a lot is it causes us to sometimes we think that we have boundaries in place, but we don't have firm boundaries because the example that I gave of that woman coming in the office that already had her day planned, but then all of these other things that were thrown at her, when you're able to operate in a place where you can still have firm boundaries, you're able to give pushback to certain things. It doesn't mean that you're not going to do it, but there's different questions that you ask as far as, okay, hey, when do you need this by? Just because someone asked me to do it doesn't mean that I have to drop everything and do it then. But sometimes when those situations happen, that's the mode that we go into and just think that we have to be so great. So a lot of those things, when we get to doing the overthinking, they start eroding at our confidence. And so, as a leader that's not confident, it impacts the way that you lead, the way that you communicate with your team. And like I said, once you start doubting your abilities, how can you be the strong leader?
As you were saying that, that's spot on. I want to jump into your backstory. I want to jump into who you are. I want to help the person that's in the kitchen cooking right now. I want to help the person that's listening, just doesn't know who you are. But before we do that, I'd like for you to take a moment, if we can, if you could step into it and say, look, if you're out there right now, here is one small shift that you could take today that could really stop you or allow you to move forward and not hold you back and take the weight off. You say, here's one shift you can start today. Like, you don't even know who they are, but they're listening saying, I got that weight.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, she's speaking to me, Shay. I'm just curious. I don't even care who she is right now. What's one small shift that she would recommend that I could start doing today that could lead me down that direction just to release this weight? And I know it's probably an unfair question because folks are in different places and different spaces in their life. But do the best you can and speak to that woman that's watching right now, please.
Yes, yes, yes. And I love that. So, one thing that if you are a woman who's in a space where today you feel overwhelmed, just the weight of carrying everything, the first thing and the mindset shift that you can make is every day start operating from a place of gratitude, remembering who you are, how amazing and how important you are, and the skills and abilities that you have. And the one way to do that is every morning when you look at yourself in the mirror, you have to remind yourself that you are beautiful, that you are amazing, and that you are capable. And I can handle anything that comes across my path. So it's kind of that mindset shift that you can start making to change how you start thinking. Because when we start doubting ourselves, those are just lies. But if we continue to doubt ourselves long enough, your spirit starts to believe those lies. So start the day off feeding yourself with positivity and being grateful for just where you are and watch those little shifts start happening.
Spot on, by the way. And I think that's a perfect segue as you was talking, by the way. And everybody might want to lean in because I know by now you're curious, who is she? What's her backstory? What was that defining moment that led her to say, you know what? I'm focused on women. I'm focused on helping them take off the weight. And more importantly, I'm focused on them living the life they truly deserve and being the leader God called them to be. And I use the word God, and all you may not be Christians, and that's okay, but maybe you can relate to that. I happen to be a Christian, but maybe you can relate to that. So here's the question. Who are you? I know you've been waiting. What's your backstory? And then what's that defining moment that really led you to doing what you're doing now? We all want to know.
Absolutely. So I am Michelle Clarkson, speaker, coach, leadership strategist. And as Shay just said, I help women who have become disconnected with themselves, feel stuck in their own lives, to reconnect with who they are, lead with confidence so that you can live a powerful life, both personally and professionally. And I am a domestic abuse survivor, a divorced single mom who, at the time when divorce happened in my life, I was in a city with no family, no support system, but also at that time, I was on the rise in my career. So 25 plus years in corporate. And at the time when I was in a transition in my personal life, my professional life started soaring. So therein comes the weight of handling everything, because sometimes it's those transitions of life that we're going through. But when I was in my transitions of life, when I survived domestic abuse, there were women that poured into me and my faith in God that got me through that. Then, fast forward to divorce, there were women that poured into me during those challenges. And I always wanted to help women, but never used my voice. And so, the turning point in my life where I said, you know what, Michelle, you can no longer hold back. I was on the bedside with my father when he was transitioning and taking his last breath. And the one thing that he told me, because of the fact that I've said it over and over and over and never acted on it, he said, Michelle, you have to use your voice. And so I just, like, there was no thinking from there. It was like, okay, that was God speaking to me. And it was like, all right. And that's how I really got into doing what I'm doing, started speaking, working with women. And as I stopped and thought about it, I said, you've been coaching women your whole life, because I'm always the friend, the go to person that my friends come to. In the workplace, I was always the person that they needed to do with mentoring. I was always the person that was doing training, always the go to person in the office where if someone was struggling, they knew that they could come to me because they felt like I was a safe space. And that's who I am. And I just have a way where I'm able to connect with women, also be firm but gentle, but helping women to be able to be aware of where they are and accept that and take the ownership of the change that needs to happen so that they can have that transition in their life. So that's where it all started. And, I'm just so thankful that that last push and nudge came from my father to step into my purpose and do what God had been telling me to do for so long.
Wow, thanks for being so authentic. Thanks for sharing that with us. We certainly appreciate that. And for the woman out there that's listening and is thinking, I love what I'm hearing, Shay. I'm just curious, and how does she handle having so many different hats, which you open up with? And that does describe a number of our folks that are watching. They're dualpreneurs. They wear many hats. They're a full-time mom, maybe a full-time wife, maybe a full-time relationship. Maybe they're going to school full-time and working full-time. And they're also a full-time leader in their community, and they're a full-time leader in their faith community, and they're involved with their kids, and their kids have a schedule. And as you talked about, your parents or your father transition, some are like Shay Brown, they're caregivers. How does one wear so many hats and still be able to step into their brilliance in any given moment for just that one hat that they wear? Again, a very loaded question, but I'm curious on what your view of the world is with this particular question.
Yeah. So that is the loaded one, and it's not one that's easy, because I think to get to the point where you're able to be able to handle life and all of the different many hats that we carry, sometimes it's really about your mindset. You have to understand how important you are. Once you know your worth and your value and that self love that you have for yourself, you make yourself a priority. A priority, what do you mean? Priority, making sure that I get my rest. Priority in making sure the things that I need to fulfill me are the things that I'm doing first. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., I'm at the gym. Why? Well, one, because I want to stay healthy, but I also know that that helps me keep my mind clear. Lord willing, as long as you want to keep me here, I'm doing the things to do that. But you have to make yourself a priority first. and not feel guilty for doing that. And when you're able to embrace that, then you can then prioritize those things that need to be done. And when you're able to truly love yourself and know your worth and your value, one of the critical components of being able to wear so many hats is you have to be able to have firm boundaries and stand in them. And not boundaries to keep people away from you, but boundaries that teach people how to treat you and the things that you will and will not tolerate. Because a lot of times in that overthinking that I said before too, it comes because sometimes we're saying yes when we really mean no. And I have no problem unapologetically saying no. It is a complete sentence. So once you're able to get to that point and be secure in who you are, it is easy to be able to handle and manage all of the hats that we carry.
I love it, by the way. And it's a perfect transition as you were sharing that, by the way, and spot on to a segment we have here called Today is My January 1st. Now, for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what we're about to do. Some of you even wait for this moment, by the way. You love saying those words out loud. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to you, by the way. And for those folks who are tuning in for the very first time, thanks for spending time with us. We appreciate you allowing us to stream into your home or onto your AirPods or wherever we're watching right now. But today is our January 1st is our personal mantra. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or how bright and sunny that past is back there, the past really no longer equals the future. And so my question for Michelle is on the other side. It's really twofold. Number one, just when you hear those words, today is my January 1st. What do you even hear? What goes to your mind? And then you gave us a challenge you had with your father earlier. But what is another maybe setback or challenge you had in your life that you yourself had to bounce back, come back stronger, come back with more confidence?
Well, I have an amazing January 1st because it just happened last year. My January 1st moment was I was laid off from my corporate job as a director in October of last year, a job that I relocated to Atlanta for, a job that my mother relocated from Ohio to come live here as well with me. So at first, that layoff, it felt like rejection because yes, being a high achieving woman, I look at, layoffs as just a nice way of saying, hey, you're fired. Always been a top performer. So that layoff felt like a rejection to me. And it caused me to start doubting myself, my worth. Even though I was told, okay, hey, this is all financial, I started like, what could I have done better? What didn't I do? Should I pursue other things? But that rejection, it became my redirection because I was working that full time job, but also being an entrepreneur on the side. So it forced me to remember who I was outside of the title, outside of a paycheck. And I realized that my strength, it wasn't in the company that I worked for, it was in me. So that moment caused me to remember my value, my confidence deepened, and the setback was really just a setup for me to be able to do my business full time and to pour into women more than I was able to do. So I stopped building someone else's bottom line and started building real impact. And it just gave me the permission that I needed to walk fully in my purpose. But let me tell you, when that January 1st hit, I felt that sting, but turned that thing around. And now it's like, look out.
Look out. You're on the
Look
way.
out.
You're on the comeback.
He's unstoppable, okay? Yes. Because, I say sometimes God, he removes the security so that you can step into your significance.
Yeah, yeah. And you seem to really be enjoying what you're doing. I mean, every time you start talking, you light up, you get more and more and more energy. Ladies, like she's just building up, building up, building up. Like, I've been waiting, Shay. So
Okay.
my question
I
is,
love it.
what do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days? I mean, yes, you're impacting lives. I'm sure you're changing families' economic status because when the woman becomes better, obviously, and she's able to do more, have more, give more, serve more, it's just a big difference. And it changes not only her family, but her community. But I'm just curious, what do you enjoy so much about what you're doing these days?
The thing that I enjoy so much about what I'm doing, and like you say, the excitement, the joy in the transformation of people being able to tap into that power that God already placed in them. We are all so powerful. We have so many gifts, but sometimes we get caught up in, what will people think, doubting ourselves, and not walking in our purpose and being confident in who you are. So that is what I enjoyed so much. It is so like I get excited when I have the opportunity to work with a woman who, when we start working together, she may be doubting herself, lacking in confidence, not have firm boundaries, just accepting everything and feeling like she's not in control of her life. And then for me to turn, at the end of those 90 days and be like, who is this woman that I'm talking to? Like this confidence and coming and hearing the stories of how there was pushback or, I took the step to do this for myself and I didn't take 3 weeks to make a decision. Those are the things that just excite me and give me joy because I know that I have helped a woman really transform and change her life so that she can live a life of purpose. So those are the things that excite me. And then also it leads to that woman, once she steps into that, she takes off and starts doing things that she didn't even think about that she would even be able to do before she started focusing on herself.
Spot on, by the way. And one of my favorite questions to ask, and we have a couple of minutes, and we do have a few minutes now, and is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? And I'll frame it. You've got 25 years in corporate America. You've done so much. You've read so many books. You had lots of mentors along this journey. I'm sure you probably can't remember all the videos you watched, all the conferences you've attended, all the leadership stuff you've been a part of. But if you had to step back and say, Shay, here's one of the best pieces of advice that's ever been given to me, what would it be and why?
Yes. So I think one of the best pieces of advice that has been given to me is that life at some point will happen to all of us. And when life happens, you have two choices. Either you can choose to be the victim or you can choose to be the victor. And when you choose to be the victim, that life that you're going to lead, it's not going to be a life that's going to be fulfilling because you're always going to be making excuses about a situation that already happened. But when you choose to be the victor and rise above that situation, you have no idea what's on the other side of being the victor. Because, yes, I am a domestic abuse survivor, horrible situation to endure. But let me tell you, the best thing that could have ever happened to my life, because I would not be the woman that I am today. I wouldn't have the self worth, the self love, the confidence that I have, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today because I'd probably still be being a victim and using that as excuse for the struggles that happened after that. But all of those struggles were things that built me and made me into the woman I am today. So the greatest thing, like I said, that I've heard is life will happen and you have two choices. Either you can be the victim or you can be the victor. And I say every day, no matter what comes across your path, we are choosing victory.
I love it. What does success look like for you these days? What does it feel like when you think of the word success for where you are right now?
Really, right now for me, success looks like expanding intentionally because I am really focused on investing in my branding, my visibility, my speaking, my business mentorship, because I don't want to just inspire women. I want to build something that reaches thousands and is a movement that someone else from the things that she learns going through my coaching program and once she's able to experience my 5-step presence to power method, that's something that she can share with some of her girlfriends and be like, ooh, let me tell you sis what I learned when I was working with her. So being just focused on expanding intentionally, that is really what I think success looks like, because you have to always be willing to grow and learn. And once you get to a certain spot, don't think that's it. There's still another level that you can go to. So, right now, success for me is just that expansion and investing in those things to continue to allow me to sharpen my craft and, be a better blessing than I am today to women.
What a wonderful way to describe success and what it feels like and looks like, by the way. When you're not out saving the world, what do you do for fun these days? What does that look like?
So for fun, I am a big sports fan. So I am always, no matter if it's football, basketball, baseball, you name it, I am on it. Big music lover. So any opportunity that I get to get out of this house with my girls and do dancing, I am there, lighting it up. And then I am a family girl. And being able to spend quality time with my family, it's priceless. Yeah. So that's what I spend my time doing in my fun time. And it's like, when do we really have that fun time? It comes.
Good. I love that. That's kind of cool. As we come down the home stretch, and shout out to the one and only Lawana Bradford for putting us together with an incredible, amazing individual she is. All she's doing with her platform. I've known her for a number of years, so I'm glad she connected us. Amazing collaborator. As we come down the home stretch, a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to work with these days, if any? And number two, how can folks best connect with you? Like, where should they go? Where should they follow you? What should they do if they're watching right now and they're like, yes, it's time for me to put down the weight. And it's time for me to step
Yes.
it on up and take it to that next level.
Yes. Well, the type of clients, that I'm looking for, those high achieving, high performing, professional women. But you don't also have to be a professional woman. You could be a woman that's just at a crossroads or at a transition in your life and just feeling stuck, and that that you're capable of more, but you just don't know what step to take so that you can reconnect with yourself and feel like yourself again. So, that's the woman that I'm looking for. So, if you are someone that's struggling and just carrying the weight of everything, feeling resentment, like you have no support, not feeling the greatest about yourself and lower self esteem, you're lacking your confidence, that is the woman that I'm looking for to help and turn around so that, she can start smiling again and feeling great about herself. And the best way really to connect with me, making it easy, is you can connect with me on my socials on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at Michelle Clarkson. And, I'm always active, I engage, and I genuinely build community there. So that's the best way to connect with me.
Let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We appreciate it. Can't wait to have you return again soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It has been my pleasure, Che. And like I told you before we even got started, I just love what you are doing, giving people a platform to amplify their voices and just make a difference in the world. So kudos to you as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, the viewers. Thank you for tuning in. You have a lot of choices. And again, you choose to be with us. So thank you so much. We appreciate that. Without you, well, we don't have a show. And I never get tired of reminding you every night, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, by the way, whether you're doing really, really well. And for some of you, by the way, you're going to what I call that next level of success, or you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming. The one thing I do believe is that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best yet to come. My name is Shay Brown. God bless. Keep doing God's work. We out of here, Michelle. Peace, everybody. We'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye for now.